precisely 1:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Anjanalia Narachi, read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. 38 students with corona infection are appearing for the GCE Ordinary Level examination today. Sri Lanka is ready to consider single-shot vaccine. More than 460,000 Sri Lankans have been vaccinated under the vaccination program. Pakistan pledged to facilitate more betel imports from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka receives $180 million loan from Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Indian Prime Minister takes the first dose of corona vaccine. Local news in detail. 38 students with corona infection are appearing for the GCE Ordinary Level examination today. Minister G.L. Piri says that they appeared for the exam at examination centres set up separately for the corona infected. The GCE Ordinary Level examinations began this morning across the country. Our reporters said that the candidates are being received at all the examination centres at all provinces adhering to strict COVID-19 health guidelines. A total number of 622,305 candidates will sit for the exam at 4,513 centres. Sri Lanka is ready to consider a single-shot vaccine which has been given approval in America. U.S. regulators have formally approved the single-shot Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus vaccine. Health Ministry sources told that if the vaccine is given approval by the local regulator, it will be considered. The vaccine is said to be cost-effective and can be stored in a refrigerator instead of a freezer. However, so far, the National Medicines Regulatory Authority has not received an application seeking approval for the single-shot Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine. As of Friday, we have not received an application seeking approval for the use of the single-shot Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine, Dr. Kamal Jayasinghe, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, told the media. The National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreaks stated that a total of 205 diplomats and 123 parliamentarians have been vaccinated against COVID-19 so far. The epidemiology unit says that more than 460,000 people have been vaccinated so far under the vaccination program. The Association of Public Health Inspectors says the corona vaccine will be given according to the voter list. 7 corona deaths were reported in Sri Lanka yesterday. The deaths were reported from Kurunegala, Anuradhapura, Gampaha, Ruggahavila, Demlagama, Colombo 5 and Pannipitiya. Sri Lanka registered 148 more positive cases of COVID-19 yesterday as the total novel coronavirus infections reported within the day reached 352. Department of Government Information says 346 of today's cases are close contacts of earlier cases linked to Paliagoda cluster. 4 others were detected from the prison cluster and the remaining 2 are reportedly arrivals from foreign countries. New development has pushed the country's confirmed COVID-19 cases count to 83,242. According to COVID-19 figures, 3,824 active cases are still under medical care at selected hospitals and treatment centers. Meanwhile, total recoveries reported in the country now stands at 78,947. Sri Lanka has also witnessed 471 fatalities due to the outbreak of the pandemic. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan agreed to further facilitate betel imports, among others, from Sri Lanka by eliminating the present bottlenecks raised by the Sri Lankan side, Trade Minister Bandulu Gunawardena said yesterday. The Pakistani leader concluded his 2-day bilateral visit to Sri Lanka last week. Minister Gunawardena, who participated in bilateral negotiations with him, told to media the trade balance was heavily in favour of Pakistan and Prime Minister Khan pledged to take measures to reduce it by entertaining more imports from Sri Lanka. The bilateral free trade agreement, which is in force, will be examined further to remove barriers for trading. Our exports to Pakistan stand at around $100 million, whereas we import items valued at $400 million. We brought this to the notice of Prime Minister Khan, who was concerned about it, the minister said. The Pakistani Prime Minister mooted the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor for Sri Lanka to connect with the Central Asian countries. Minister Gunawardena said the Pakistani leader offered to help Sri Lanka to arrange for Sri Lankan exporters to warehouse their products in Pakistan to be exported to the countries such as Uzbekistan. Sri Lanka receives $180 million loan from Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. The discussion on obtaining these loans and funds took place recently. The discussions were held between Dr. Palita Kohana, Ambassador of Sri Lanka to China, and Mr. Jin Lee-kun, Vice President, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. The money will be used to uplift small and medium enterprises that have been challenged in the wake of the corona disaster. Police media spokesman DIG Ajit Rohan has stated that 12 persons were killed in road accidents yesterday alone. 4 of them are three-wheeler drivers. Due to this, traffic operations have been intensified. So far, 24,631 police officers have been vaccinated against corona. The Archdiocese of Colombo decided to declare a Black Sunday, claiming that they are not satisfied with the report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which investigated the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks. The Archdiocese, which met yesterday, has decided to declare the Black Sunday on the 7th of March. Black Sunday has been declared as a day of protest against the lack of justice for all those who died and were affected by the Easter attacks. United Nations Development Programme stressed that Sri Lanka is globally recognized for its remarkable biodiversity, with 30% of its land designated as protected areas, the highest national coverage in Asia. The benefits of Sri Lanka's biodiversity directly contribute towards the forestry, fisheries, agriculture and tourism sectors. However, habitat modification through human activities in surrounding landscapes and seascapes, national policies and the activities of people in different production and development sectors are posing threats to the effective conservation of Sri Lanka's biodiversity. In order to introduce and establish a holistic approach to incorporating biodiversity conservation into planning and implementation processes, the Inception workshop of the Managing Together Integrating Community-Centered Ecosystem-Based Approaches into Forestry, Agriculture and Tourism Sectors projects by the Ministry of Environment, together with the United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka, is in process. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news. We continue with more stories here at home. In a bid to assist the job creation initiatives done by the private sector, especially in rural areas, a novel program, Mahindodaya Gamata Savia, was launched under the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa's guidance last week. The first 2 projects launched under this program were held last week in Kurunegala district, involving 2 leading private sector companies under tight health regulations. No single government anywhere in the world can provide 100% employment to its population, and hence all governments look at the private sector towards job creation. However, these initiatives done by the private sector over the past years have been conducted without much recognition from the government, Prime Minister's Private Secretary Rohita Rajapaksa told while launching the project. He also added that under the newly launched Mahindodaya Gamata Savia program, the government will not only assist these private sector-driven job creation projects, but will also invest in terms of providing the much-needed infrastructure. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes the first dose of corona vaccine. He confirmed this by leaving a note on his official Facebook page. Prime Minister Modi urges all Indians who are eligible for the vaccine to get it. Many countries in the world have already started the vaccination program, and India has also started vaccination in private hospitals from today. People in the country can get the vaccine from private sector hospitals for 250 Indian rupees. Vaccines are provided free of charge to government hospitals in India. The Indian Prime Minister said he appreciated the efforts of doctors and authorities to save the people from the corona epidemic. The last rites of the late Southern Province Minister UDG Arya Tilaka will be performed at 2 p.m. today. Funeral services will be held at the Nagoda Udalamatta Public Stadium. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa paid his last respects yesterday. Mr. Arya Tilaka represented the Southern Provincial Council for 26 consecutive years. He was 69 years old at the time of his death. That's on local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Vidya Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vidya Mahatmya.
And on the main news story, the Court of Appeal has set March 17 to consider the revision petitions filed by former Director of the Criminal Investigation Department, Shani Abesekara, and former Sub-Inspector of CID, Sugat Mendes. The relevant petition was called before the judges comprising of Nisanka Bandula Karunaratna and R. Gurusingha today. Attorney at law Viran Korea, appearing on behalf of the petitioners, requested the court to give a very short date for the consideration of the bail application, claiming it had been filed considering an urgent need. Accordingly, the bench decided to summon the petition on March 17th. The bench also directed the counsel for the petitioners to take steps to make submissions regarding the case on the same day. Abesekara and Mendes are currently under remand custody by the order of the Gampa magistrate over the alleged fabrication of evidence for a case filed against former DIG Vas Gunawardena and several others.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vidya Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
And on What's Light, the government says that the use of several types of plastics and polythene will be banned in the country from the 31st. Disposable polythene, plastic and food wrappers less than 20 microns are prohibited. The Ministry of Environment says that many problems have arisen due to the release of plastics and polythene into the environment.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
From the first step you take till the time we meet, the trusted leader prioritizes you always.
All you need under one roof. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
World News headlines. Aung San Suu Kyi has been seen by her lawyers for the first time since she was detained during a military coup a month ago. Trump rules out new political party. Nomadland and Borat's subsequent movie film were big winners at the Golden Globe Awards. World News in detail. Myanmar's leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been seen by her lawyers for the first time since she was detained during a military coup a month ago. Ms. Suu Kyi, who appeared in court via video link, appeared to be in good health and asked to see her legal team, her lawyers said. She has been held in an undisclosed location since the coup on 1st of February. The country has been riven with unrest since, with 18 people dying during pro-democracy protests on Sunday. The deaths came as the military and police ramped up its response to the protests over the weekend, firing into the crowds. Donald Trump says he has no plans of to launch a new political party, telling a conservative conference in Florida that it would split the Republican vote. In his first speech since Democrat Joe Biden became president, he also hinted that he might run for office again in 2024. Former President Trump strongly criticized his successors, saying U.S. policy had gone from America first to America last. The speech comes weeks after Mr. Trump was acquitted in an impeachment trial. His appearance at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Orlando on Sunday represents his continued influence over the Republican Party. Finally, on world news, police in Hong Kong have charged 47 activists with subversion in the largest use yet of the territory's controversial security law. The 47, among a group of 55 arrested in dawn raids last month, were told to report to police stations for detention ahead of court appearances on Monday. Beijing enforced the law criminalizing subversive acts last year, saying it was needed to bring stability. Critics say it has silenced dissent and stripped Hong Kong of its autonomy. That's on World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
From the first step you take till the time we meet, the trusted leader prioritizes you always.
All you need under one roof. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by
CIB offers valuable prize for New Year from 1st to 15th of March. Our choice in our own place. CIB.
Hambantota International Port achieved another milestone in their multi-services portfolio when they launched the wholesale supply of marine bunker fuels together with their strategic partner Sinopec Fuel Oil Lanka Limited. Local company Lanka Marine Services, a market leader in the Sri Lankan bunker supply industry, was Sinopec Fuel Oil Lanka Limited's first buyer, carrying out an offshore bunkering operation with the support of Hambantota International Port.
Development News was brought to you by
CIB offers valuable prize for New Year from 1st to 15th of March. Our choice in our own place. CIB.
Sports news. The latest International Cricket Council Test batting and bowling rankings have been released. New Zealand captain Kane Williamson tops the Test batting list, followed by former Australian captain Steve Smith. 3 Indian batsmen are in the top of 10. Virat Kohli, followed by Rohit Sharma and Cheteshwar Pujara in 5th, 8th and 10th positions respectively. In the meantime, the next 3 matches of England's tour of New Zealand will be played behind closed doors after a new lockdown was introduced in the country. Saturday's third one-day international plus 2020s on Wednesday and Friday will be played without fans. Wednesday's T20 has been moved to Wellington from Auckland, where the tightest lockdown has been introduced. The third and final T20 on 7th of March will go ahead in Tauranga, with a decision yet to make about fans' attendance. That's on Sports News.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
And on business news, the foreign media appreciates the steps taken by the government of Sri Lanka to strengthen the tourism industry in the country. Prior to Corona's arrival, Sri Lanka tourism industry made a significant contribution to the Sri Lankan economy, according to news. Currently, tourists are coming to Sri Lanka from Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Germany and the Middle East. Many airlines have resumed flights to Colombo as usual, according to foreign media.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
And on economic news, Minister Dallas Alahaperuma says that the number of projects in the power sector were launched last month. The launch of the first LNG plant and the generation of electricity from garbage are among the major ones. Bidding for 800 new projects will take place this month. That's on economic news. And moving on to the weather update. Department of Meteorology said that mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in central Sabragamua and over provinces during the morning. Before we conclude the bulletin of news, the headlines again. 38 students with corona infection are appearing for the GCE ordinary level examination today. Sri Lanka ready to consider single-shot vaccine. More than 460,000 Sri Lankans have been vaccinated under the vaccination program. Pakistan pledged to facilitate more beetle imports from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka receives $180 million loan from Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Indian Prime Minister takes the first dose of the corona vaccine. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news, and it's back to Victor Raj this afternoon.